Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for subscribing and liking these videos. That means a lot to me. All right, so I've preached keep your jig fishing simple in most of my jig videos, but I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that because there are a lot of options. And yes, most techniques you want to try to dial them in to the best of your ability. I mean, if you're getting a bunch of bites, you should know exactly what color the fish want the most by how well they're eating the bait. Unfortunately, for a jig, it's different because you don't always get a lot of bites on the jig. I mean, the furthest thing from the truth when it comes to jig fishing is that these are baits that you can catch 20 on it in a day, and by the end of the day, you know exactly the perfect color. Because what happens on days like that is it doesn't really matter if it's a green pumpkin, blue, and orange. They'll probably bite just a green pumpkin. Or if they're eating blue craw, they'll probably eat green pumpkin and chartreuse. Maybe that little strand of pink you have in your jig doesn't really make a difference on days like that. On the days that are very consistent with jig fishing, slow, you're not getting a lot of bites. You got to go fish 10 docks before you get a bite. You got to go run 3 or 4 bluff walls before you get a bite. You're not knowing what color is going to work. You might get one bite on that black and blue jig. The sun comes out. You fish with the black and blue jig for another 2 hours, don't get a bite. And then switch to something more natural, fish with it for 30 minutes, and then you get a couple bites. And how were you supposed to know what was going to work other than your own intuition or just having a lot of confidence? Jig fishing, the most important thing is confidence. And if you don't have that perfect color that you know they're going to bite, which you don't, it's hard to be confident. So where do you gain that confidence from? Now, that's why I like to keep it simple. I like 4 colors. I know that peanut butter and jelly with the Junebug trailer is going to work in clear water. I know something very natural, very, I got one of my favorite colors right here. Not too bright, but darker, you know, that dark green pumpkin with a little bit of that brown in there. I know that is going to work on clear and dirtier water because it's not too flashy. On days where you're just not going to get bites on a lot of things, I know this darker hue is going to work in most all scenarios. And then I have some baits that if I think, you know, maybe I'm seeing crawdads, maybe I'm seeing different types of forage in the water that I can see, you know, there's brightness in those forages, then I'll go with something that has some chartreuse and orange, and I'll go with that lighter green pumpkin. But really, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go out there with confidence, and I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to, you know, put that on the back of my jig, and I'm just going to go with it. I mean, I've had a lot of tournaments where I didn't get my first jig bite of the week until the first day of the tournament. You know, it's pretty par for the course to where you don't know if it's going to work. And then if a fish shows you something, maybe you've been catching them really good on a natural green pumpkin, you know, that brown, or there's a little bit of blue or pink or something in there, a real natural color, and you figured it out yesterday at noon when you had a sunny, no clouds, bright day, and you start getting a few bites on that, and that becomes your confidence color, and you're not willing to change when you start the next day, and you're flipping around, and you have one follow your bait back to the boat and they don't get it. Well, you have low light conditions rather. You should have changed to black and blue. So it's like one of those things where you don't always need a sign to know when to change. You just kind of got to go with the conditions. And I guess you're going to learn that over experience, but it is, you know, a couple natural colors, and then you want to have your black and blue because that is very important. You want those fish to be able to see it. Anytime you have low light conditions, that is just a color that's going to shine. And then you want, you know, something that is going to be really good in clear water. You know, and those chartreuses and oranges and stuff like that, those aren't always going to work in clear water. You know, you got to go with those staples like peanut butter and jelly that I mentioned earlier. So it can become really confusing. Now, there are 14 different colors that each jig company makes, and you might pick one that I've never used that works really well for you, that you're confident you can lock it in your hand on days when you're not getting a lot of bites. But that is the important part of this. trying to use a bunch of different colors like you do with soft plastics or maybe crankbaits or something like that, this is different. You're not getting the amount of bites that really are going to tell you what you need to do. So try that when you're jig fishing. That's why I always keep it simple. I know that if I lock this bait in my hands for an hour or two, I'm going to get a bite. I don't care where I'm at. As long as I have a certain watercolor that is pretty consistent with most lakes and rivers I fish, this is going to work. Now, am I going to throw this down on Okeechobee? No. But if I have bluegill or crawfish or something around where I'm fishing and it's greenish tinted water or a little bit clear, this is going to be what I'm throwing. And when that doesn't work, maybe the jig fishing deal just wasn't it for me that day. So try that, guys. Keep your jig fishing colors simple. I promise you it's going to make jig fishing a lot easier. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.